Hello. Oh, look at us wearing like the
All
same
right.
thing. Look at us wearing the same thing. I got the
Oh,
white.
interesting. Interesting.
Wow.
It's kind of a classic look, gotta
It's such
say.
a it's a look that never fails.
So see what I do is I have this I got two of these blue like
Hmm.
sort of long sleeve sort of sweatery things.
Hmm.
And then I just have about like 15 white t-shirts.
Dude, I'm
And
right
so
there with you.
if I don't feel like doing anything, I'll just boom, shower, come in, open the closet. There's my white t-shirt for the day. There's my blue sweater for the day, and
Mm.
we're all set.
Bro, you throw a pair of gray sweatpants that are comfy on with it. It's the greatest look known. That's incredible.
Oh
That's so
man.
good. Wow, that's great.
Oh.
That's good. All for maybe our most anticipated one yet. I'll be honest. I haven't decided on what's three and what's four yet.
I've watched highlights of 11 different Super Bowls today,
I like that. I like that.
which
That's
I,
good.
I realized about probably two-thirds of the way in that it helped me like sort of rank them. But when it comes to the details of any of them, like I lost it. Like there's just way too
Too many,
jumbled,
too many. Yeah.
too much to go through, especially when the same team is in a bunch of them.
Yeah. See,
Um,
I'm mostly like I can remember roughly them well.
mhm.
My research, I just wanted to make sure I had scores right and then
Okay.
rough like flow of the game.
Yeah.
Because that was a big one. It's like I can remember that these, two Super Bowls are super close, and I can remember
Yeah.
like what happened at the end. But I
Right.
was like, I don't really remember a lot of how we got there, and so I just look and read about it. So I have details that I want written down. But
Yeah. That came into play a lot for mine, actually, like the flow
yeah,
of the game.
yeah, because
Um,
it's so easy to forget the first like 50, 45 minutes of a game for a lot of them.
yeah,
Um,
that's true.
but all
All
right.
right. Should we get into it?
Mhm. All right.
You want to start it off? This is also similar to I think the last one we did was World Series, right?
Mhm.
So similarly, we have one of us who is much more invested in the sport, and then one who is much more objective.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting
Okay.
dynamic.
Okay. All right.
I just want to put that on the
We
record.
want to get in this right now. The whole
I
objective
just want
thing
to
is
put that
not
on the
interesting.
record.
All right.
So you want to
Let's
start or you want to
not
let
see.
me kick it off?
I was gonna push back. I am like barely biased, but I will admit when I'm making a decision on ranking a Super Bowl based on bias.
All
Okay,
right.
I'll admit it.
All
It
right.
will, depending on your list, it may or may not come up here.
Okay.
But I'm just a expert historian of Super Bowls. That's what we're gonna say. All right,
Okay.
you
All
start
right.
us off. You start us off.
Okay. I'm going to start with 2001.
Okay,
I have that number four.
okay,
You have it
and
in there?
just no, I don't actually.
Okay. I'm
Very
surprised. I thought
close.
you would have that one
Yeah,
because I know
and
you love that one.
oh, I mean, of course, I could easily just go five Patriots Super
I
Bowls and
know
I'd
you
be
could.
happy,
I know
but
you
I'm not
could.
going to. And just to clarify, when we say the year, it's the year of the season. So
Yeah.
2001 is Patriots Rams.
Patriots Rams. Yep.
Yeah, it, it very close, like very easy to make the argument that it's in there, but I just didn't
Hmm.
quite put it there. But tell
This
us
is going
why
to
it
be
is
this
good.
is going to be a I'm going to set our list apart very quickly here. Part of
Mhm.
the reason why I really liked watching the highlights of this one were because for some reason the field just looked so nice to me. And
Oh yeah,
I
oh
know
yeah,
how fake it is and all that stuff, but it just really I really liked how it looked, and it just looked like a Super Bowl as
yeah,
opposed to like I don't know, some of the fields are if they're like worn down or something, or maybe like the
yeah,
grass isn't quite the right shade. I think because it was so artificial, it just
yeah, bro.
looked really, and it also I feel like it just reminded me of like Madden, which is my most
Yeah,
experience with the Super Bowl. So I was
yeah,
like, oh man, this just looks nice. And it was a pretty good game. You also have
great game.
I would have obviously liked if like the field goal was like down a point or something, like if it was to
Right, right.
lead change. Obviously that's the same with like buzzer beaters in basketball. It's always a little cooler,
Hmm.
but it came down to a field goal.
Hmm.
The pick six. I was looking for as I watch more and more of these, right? There's a lot of close ones. It always kind of gave a game a little bit of a bump in my rankings when there were like exciting plays. So like the pick six and stuff like that.
Hmm. Me too.
Um, because otherwise it kind of I think like this past Super Bowl is a perfect example of like there was the fumble, but it was kind of like he just kind of dropped the ball. It wasn't that exciting. Stuff just kind
It
of
was like
happened.
crazy but weird.
Yeah,
Yeah,
stuff just kind of happened. There wasn't really any plays that were like, oh wow, that was an insane like I
right.
don't know. So it just didn't. By the end of the game, you're kind of like, oh yeah, we just played a game of football. It wasn't anything super super special.
Yeah,
Um, but I just thought it was a really nice Super Bowl, and I thought it was one of Brady's better ones. So I wanted to acknowledge that as well.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really great game. The fact that it's an upset, I think, is also really cool, right? Like nobody expected the Patriots to
Hmm.
win on a game winner, and it felt like an upset. And as people that are Boston sports fans too, it's coming at a time where the Patriots have never won. The
Right.
Red Sox are obviously in their
In a
80-year drought
hole.
at
Yeah.
this point. Celtics have been good, Bruins have been good, but for
At that point, though, the
well,
Celtics were
yeah, not they weren't good then, but it like to have
historically, yeah,
they
they
have
were very good.
16 rings at
Yeah,
that point, and they just like historically they were super good, but
right.
like the
It had been a
Patriots,
while though.
yeah, Patriots historically were either not great or like heartbreaking losses.
Right.
Same with the Red Sox, and so then the Patriots they go out on them, have this lead, get the pick six, then Warner has the fumble late in the game. They're in the red zone, fumble return for a touchdown that theoretically, especially with the game then, would have put it away. The Patriots are going to win. That fumble gets called back on a penalty.
Yes.
Rams score, and then
Right.
Rams march down and I think they scored maybe like it was 10 unanswered, something like that to tie the
Hmm.
game. So
It
it
was
had
10, yeah.
all the makings of like, oh, we finally won it. And then it's like, oh no, another heartbreaking penalty. Now the Rams have the momentum. This is going to be another heartbreaking loss.
Yep.
And then the young guy comes in, leads a great drive, a lot of good plays, right? And then kicking that field goal. It was just, especially as like Boston fans, but like the
Right.
significance of that game
For
was
NFL history too, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Without that, I mean, you never know with the butterfly effect and all that, but like
Oh
without
yeah.
that, the Patriots might still not have a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Very
And
possibly.
people might talk about like St. Louis as one of the greatest
Yeah.
dynasties ever, right? Because
The
that would have
Rams
been
might not go out west. SoFi Stadium might never be built.
you never know.
You never know. Yeah, I see. This is where I'm saying like the details kind of get lost. I was sitting there watching it, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure this game ends in a Vinatieri field goal, and the Patriots were up by a good amount. I think at least one touchdown when that fumble happened, and then he runs it all the way back, and I'm like, wait a minute, how?
Yeah,
We're
right.
running
Like,
out of time here. How is this going to happen? And then they got called
yeah,
back. I'm like, oh boy.
yeah. So crazy game.
Yeah.
Great pick. Like if we did a top 10, I probably have it six.
Yeah,
Um,
I will say, I did just make a change to my list, and I probably would have had it six if I had voted my list down correctly. Like if I just there was one I was just looking at my list, and there was one that I forgot to get in there that I wanted
oh
to
no.
make sure I got in there. So it's now bumped out a different one. But
Do we need to do you need to just alter it? Do you want to
no,
get
no,
rid of
no,
this
no,
one?
no, no. I'm not
Okay,
upset
okay,
at,
okay.
moving the one I moved out, but
All right.
I think there was a good case to be made
That it
for
deserves.
it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Hey, we'll see how it goes. So I'll stay in a similar vein.
Okay.
I had the next Patriots Super Bowl, 2003, Patriots
Okay.
beating the Panthers.
Okay.
And I have it at five.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That one could have slipped in at five for me too. I had that one. I ranked all the ones I watched out of 10, and I had those at the same ranking. So at
Okay,
that point, it was kind of just like
okay.
preference.
So I'll go through why I put that one in. It was really I kind of got to my top four, and then it was between this one or the Patriots Rams.
Okay.
The Rams one obviously has like the historical significance, but just looking at the game, the reason I chose the Panthers one over it was for a couple reasons. One, it was just super back and forth.
Mhm.
And as much as like, and with today's NFL, the way comebacks happen, that Patriots Rams one doesn't feel so much like the Rams had this big comeback or anything, but it
Yep.
was somewhat. But this game was also just wild. So I have a few things. Final score is 32-29. And the Patriots win on a game-winning field goal, right? That's another so crazy great ending, but it was 0-0 with 3 minutes and 11 seconds left in the second quarter. So the
Mhm.
first, right, 27 almost minutes of this game, nobody scores. And then it was 14-10 at halftime. So it goes from nobody scores to then 24 points scored in 3 minutes.
Mhm.
And then nobody scores again in the third quarter. And by the way, the 14-10 was literally like back, forth, back, forth.
Yeah.
Nobody scores in the third quarter. And then it ends up 32-29. So it's just like this burst of defense where like nobody could score. And then it's just this onslaught. It was just absolutely insane. Watching it is like so crazy. It's so fun to watch. You have a lot of big plays. You have some missed field goals that are heartbreaking. Some really long touchdowns the Panthers had. Brady at one point, I forget when, but he throws an interception in the end zone. So
Which was
like
one that was maybe at some point today I said like, oh, he hasn't had a lot of great Super Bowls.
that
It
was
might have
one
been watching this one because I think that interception is like a bad interception. Like I
very
think it's
bad.
one where it's just like he just kind of throws it for no reason,
Yeah,
and it's not close to anyone. And you're just like, what are you
yeah,
doing?
killer too. Because so I might be getting it wrong. I think the Patriots were winning at that point, and so like a touchdown would have been huge because
Mm,
late in the game.
yeah.
I could be wrong on that, but either way, it was like a very costly interception. Um, and then it ends in the Patriots get the ball like roughly a minute, little over a minute 15, something like that. Drive down for the game-winning field goal. So I think just the craziness and the back and forth is why I put it over the Rams and put it in there. Both really great Super Bowls. I agree with you. If it was same situation where the game winner was breaking a tie,
Right.
if they were losing, that just adds an element that's fun. But overall, just an incredible game. So that's why I got it in at five.
Yeah. For me, that one, I think what kept it out was just like Patriots Panthers just feels like I don't know.
Mm,
I guess because of how the Panthers have been more when I've watched football, it's kind of been like I don't know. It doesn't feel like a really
great.
big
Yeah.
event Super Bowl. Um, so I think for me, like that one just kind of was like, and I think because it's the second of the three, that for some reason that also sort of like,
Yeah.
it's not the
Yeah.
one that starts the dynasty, and it's not the last one of those three.
Yeah.
So it's not the one that they like went back to back. So I feel like I kind of in my head it just sort of gets lost a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I
Yeah.
said, I had the same overall ranking as the
Yeah.
other one.
Yeah.
I also
Great game.
was I was when I was watching that, I was shocked when I think that's the one right. Vinatieri misses like an easy field goal. He
Hmm.
just shanks it
Yeah.
to
He missed
start
a
the game,
couple.
and then he got one blocked. I think right
Yeah.
after that,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah. You forget.
he's gonna is this another game? He's gonna kick a game-winning field goal at the end. They're putting him out there for a
Yeah.
game-winning field goal at the end of this game. Are we sure?
Yeah. So I tell you, that's the resiliency of the best kicker of all time there,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I was honestly more surprised just because knowing like Belichick, like
that he trusted him.
he's yeah, he's notorious for like one strike and you're out.
Yeah. But I mean, when you've built up or sustained success for that long,
Yeah,
like
it helps that
you
was
trust the
the
guy.
second. It helps that he had a Super Bowl winning kick
Yeah.
already in the bank.
And he had been there for a while, and it
Right.
wasn't like he had in the 2001 he kicked a game tying field goal
Hmm.
and a game winner against the Raiders in a like the crazy snowstorm. Like
Right.
he had hit a number of big kicks, and he'd been there long enough that like everyone knew he was a great kicker. So you just trust your guy.
Yeah.
And it's also not like you can really send anyone else out there. You're not going to throw
True.
like a 50-yard or 40-yard Hail Mary when you could just try to.
Especially when Brady's your quarterback with
All
that
right,
arm.
watch him up.
I mean, that's subjective. He's not a deep ball guy.
Yes, he is.
No. He's a short guy. He's a short passing guy.
Okay, we're not.
Compared to a lot
Stop
of
it.
quarterback, like
Stop it.
when he throws deep, it's like I am about to throw my whole body down the field, as opposed to guys I can sling it.
You're just.
That is
I mean,
factual.
no. I mean, he doesn't have like a Josh Allen or Mahomes arm, but he has a
Yeah.
cannon.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
you're just making stuff up now. Go
No,
ahead.
I don't. I think in relation to his level,
There,
I think his
there
arm
are
is not
a
amazing.
there are like a number of like NFL quarterbacks or players on record that are like admire his ability to throw the deep ball. So let's just stop
All
talking.
right, all right. Well,
Go look at his throw to Randy
disagree.
Moss at the end of the 2007 Super Bowl where he threw it like 80 yards in the air.
But
And
again, it's like it's not like he needs time and like he needs to load it up.
bro,
You
if you
know,
can throw the ball 70 yards in the air and the ball comes out like a rocket, I don't care if it looks like you're trying really hard to throw it that far.
I just don't think he has the best arm compared to like other NFL quarterbacks. That's all I'm
He has
saying.
he has
That's
a
all I'm
good
saying.
arm, not the best.
That's
Good
all I'm
arm.
saying.
You're ridiculous.
That's
Keep
all I'm
going.
saying. There's a lot of people that agree with me. I know that for a fact. All
No,
right,
there's not.
we're gonna start. I think we're gonna go into some controversy now, just
Good.
since we're already
Good.
going. I do have the 2016 Super Bowl on here, the Falcons one,
I mean, yeah, it shouldn't
but
be
I
controversial.
have it at 3. I'm assuming that's too low for your liking.
I have it at 2, so it's close.
Okay.
I
And
I
I
I,
and
I easily could have put it 3.
here's my reason. Originally, I was in my head thinking I was going to put this 1, but
Yeah.
like I thought it was going to be locked in at 1. There was 2
Yeah.
Super Bowls that I before I went back and watched them that I
Mhm.
like starred to make sure that they were in my list, and this was one of them. I thought that was going to be 1.
Mm-hmm.
However, watching it back compared to some of the other ones, yes, there's a great comeback. Yes, it's an overtime win, but it's sort of kind of like what you're saying about the Panther Super Bowl. When I'm watching a bunch of Super Bowls that are like back and forth, teams are trading scores and stuff like that, big
Mhm.
plays are
Mhm.
happening. A team going out to a 28-3 and then a team coming all the way back
Mhm.
is not quite as entertaining.
Sure.
And from a perspective of someone who wanted the Patriots to win, it was exciting in the moment and being like, wow, this is really happening. But as an objective game,
Yeah.
watching the scores be chunked out that much
Yeah.
just didn't quite like hold
Yeah.
up to some of the other ones.
That's fair. And like you, I thought there were kind of 2 in my head at first. They were like definitely top 2, and it's easy to say this should be number 1 just because
Yeah.
biggest comeback in Super Bowl history and the only Super Bowl ever to go to overtime.
Yeah.
But so I still had it at 2, but that's the reason I didn't have it at 1. Is the same thing because if you're not a fan of one of those teams, there's a like not a huge chunk, but a pretty solid chunk of that game where you could easily have just not been interested.
True.
Like a lot of the third quarter, you might just not have been watching because it's like, all right, it's not that close. Here's the reason I acknowledging that do have it too. So like we mentioned, the historical, like it's just an absurd game. What happens? But once the comeback starts, a lot of comebacks you see is like one team gets on a roll, the other team just looks embarrassing, right? Like they just can't move the ball. And while that like in a lot of ways is true, is the Patriots just couldn't be stopped. The Falcons, there were still crazy plays, like you mentioned. So Dante Hightower had a huge sack that forced a fumble at one point in that game.
Mhm.
Really and crazy. late in the game, right? The Falcons are driving, and Matt Ryan to Julio Jones have arguably the greatest throw and catch ever
Yeah.
ever. Ryan makes a crazy throw. Julio has that insane catch on the sideline where he gets his feet in bounds, which should have won the game. So there's still, you're watching this. It was all of a sudden like, wow, like the Patriots are making a comeback. Oh no, they didn't. There's that level of like what's going to happen. And then you can argue it's bad coaching, but there's a penalty. The Patriots get a sack, take them all the way out of field goal range. Like it was just crazy. And then we march all the way down. And you still you had some insane plays too, where the Edelman catch, which really was a bad throw that gets deflected, and then Edelman somehow makes this absurd catch. Like there's so many crazy plays. And in the midst of the comeback, there was still this sort of moment of like, okay, the Falcons lost all the momentum, but then make a crazy play to win it. And then, oh no, like they lose it again. So I think that sort of almost back and forth in the midst of a run that was historic is why I put it in there. That is just so crazy that I have it too. It's very close. Like I can understand 3. Probably depending on what you're going to have 1 and 2, I might change what I would say. But the game I have 3, it's close to me wanting to flip them. But that's why I have it too. So greatest as far as a fan of the Patriots, like one of the greatest days of my life though. Like that also.
Yeah.
But that
at
has,
what
that's how I
point
put it.
at what point during the game did you think at any point did you think it was over?
Yes.
Okay. And at what point did you think that they had a chance to come back? Because I mean, a lot of people maybe say like, oh, once we got the first touchdown, I was there. But like,
so
there's probably a point after that where it's like, okay, this is not just like garbage time touchdowns.
Right. So I mean, we're down 28-3, but our first score was a field goal too. So like it was then 28-6 for a while. I think the moment for me was we were down 28-12. Okay. We scored a touchdown after the field goal and missed the extra point. When we missed the extra point, it was like it was like a laughable. Like we scored for no, like doesn't matter, missed the extra point. We're not gonna win. So when we scored that touchdown, it was like we need to score 2 touchdowns, we need two 2-point conversions. When we scored that touchdown and got the 2-point conversion, that for me was like, oh my goodness, right? That as they were going to kind of like, okay, we could score here, is where I started being like, all right, like maybe. But then even when you score the touchdown, if you don't get the 2-point conversion, the game's still seemingly over. When they got the 2-point conversion, that's when I was like, oh my, like we really could do it. So that's what I would say is when I really started believing.
Yeah. Second question. Who do you think should have got the MVP that game?
All right. I think Brady, but
really?
Yes. This is why James White played phenomenal.
Yeah.
And based on his numbers, like if you just look at the numbers, like I don't even know if I'd be mad if he won it, right? Like he was phenomenal. But Brady's second half is the greatest half any quarterback has ever had in a Super Bowl. Leading the greatest ever had.
Here's where we're discussing this earlier. How much it was Brady, how much whatever. So let's say we're playing, an NBA game, because I'm trying to think of it's a tough comparison, right? Because there's not really any other sport that has quite the same responsibility as the NBA. But let's say we're playing a basketball game, and you have your point guard bring the ball up. So let's say like for the Lakers right now, for example, just because there's 2 big names I can pull off the top of my head.
There you go.
So let's say Russell Westbrook is pulling the ball. He's gone there now, but he was there at one point. Yes. But let's say so let's say the point guard for the Lakers is bringing the ball up, right?
Yep.
And he brings it past half court up to the top of the key or whatever. And LeBron comes out from the corner and he stands up kind of like same height but over to the side. And the point guard passes the ball over to him, right? And then LeBron goes through and LeBron ISOs and he goes in and scores. And then LeBron does that like 20 more times, right? And LeBron ends up with like 50 points, whatever. And that point guard ends up with like, 25 assists or whatever. Do we go and say that point guard then just had a really amazing game because he got 25 assists, even though all he did was make a 20-foot pass to LeBron?
Okay. So this is a bad analogy.
I think this is a fair point here. I think this is a fair point. I'm not saying that every throw was like that, but there were a lot of throws that were like 5 yards, and then the receiver would go and juke out like 3 people and get another 5-10 yards.
Let me make my point.
Okay.
The sports are very different, so it's not the same. In that basketball scenario, you can't get an assist if a guy scores off of an isolation play, like you just said, because then it doesn't count as an assist. An assist has to come, you score within a certain amount, right? So the point of an assist is like you are influencing them score. But B, the sport is so different. So like, yes, if you watch that, Brady's not making all these crazy acrobatic throws, but like
Hmm.
football isn't like it's not Brady's fault if he doesn't have to do that. Like Brady's
No,
job.
I,
No, no,
I
no.
agree.
I know.
I
I'm not.
agree.
I know. I'm not done. Like his job, the primary job of a quarterback is to like read a defense, make a good decision, right?
Okay.
Now the great quarterbacks are able to make up for it. So like you make your reads, seemingly no one's open. Great quarterbacks make the difficult throws. They make the plays, which Brady obviously can do. That game, like he played perfect football where he's making the right reads, consistently throwing, and it's like quick. Like that was the Patriots offense. And I know it might look like the receivers are doing a lot of work. And I don't say that Brady, like I'm not saying, oh my goodness, this is like just look at Brady. Like the offense played great, right? Like
Hmm.
James White played amazing. They both deserve the credit. But the fact of the matter is a quarterback bears more of the responsibility, right? So like your Lakers example, if you watch that game, it wasn't one Patriots receiver that had 50 points, right? Like Brady is
Right.
spreading it
Right.
everywhere. Edelman will make catches. James White will make catches. Chris Hogan will make catches. Danny Amendola will make catches. He played perfect football where he's consistently delivering the football on time. And it's just the nature of football. Like there's a lot of offenses that build their offense on shorter throws just because he's
Right.
doing it. Like he's playing, like he played perfect football. To me, the only mistake he made was the throw that Edelman made a crazy catch. That was a bad throw. That was a bad decision, bad throw.
Right. I would
But
say there were others too, but sure.
I mean, like he didn't complete every pass. Like, but
Right. Right.
generally, right? Like he played that game perfectly, and their offense could not be stopped. You can't just plug another quarterback in and get the same result because it's Brady's like knowledge, his ability to read the defense. Because
That's,
part what
yeah,
one of
to an extent, I
if
guess.
you ask defensive players, one of the craziest things about Brady, one of the best things about him is how fast he gets the ball out,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so if you don't really understand football, it looks like he's just doing something easy because that means he's throwing it short a lot. But there's an art to the longer you hold on to the football, the worse it is for your team because the defense can get pressure,
True.
especially if you're Brady and you don't have the scrambling ability. So what that means is you have to know the game like better than anyone. You have to be able to come up to the line of scrimmage, look at the defense, know what you're going to do before it happens, and do it within a second, 2 seconds. And that game is him consistently doing the right thing over and over and over. And then they go on this crazy run. So that's why like that is historically good. If it was
Yeah. I
because
would my argument would be though, right? So Brady is doing his job, he's doing his job over and over and over. Whereas James White is probably going above what you would have asked of him in some of those moments,
but
especially like the last touchdown, like fighting for those yards on the last touchdown, right?
right,
Like
but
he's making some of the most important plays
but who
in
had a
those
bigger impact?
games.
Who had a bigger impact on the game? Like it's Brady.
I don't
Because
know because you could
because
say White. Well, White scored 2 touchdowns. He
no,
scored without those touchdowns. He's not.
okay,
You
yeah,
know.
but just because it's like those are two individual plays, like you still need Brady to make the 8 or 9 throws to get there. You know what I'm saying? So
Right. Right.
like James White was amazing. I don't say that to take away from what he did, but I'm not mad that a quarterback normally gets the MVP because if a quarterback plays really well, you are impacting the game so much more than anyone else just by nature of the position. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
it just there's no other way around it. It's kind of like it's sort of like if a pitcher threw a no hitter in the World Series, it's different, but it's that same level of
Yeah.
obviously you still need your offensive guys to get hits. You need to score runs. But if you throw a perfect game or no hitter as a pitcher, it's like you deserve the MVP of that game because it
Yeah.
pretty much like it you don't really need anything from anyone else. Not a perfect example, but that's just as a
Yeah.
quarterback.
I think I don't think it's a bad example. I just think I think like I wouldn't view what Brady did as like the equivalent of a no hitter would be my like
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think it's a smaller. I would say like if Brady went like 6 innings and gave up like one run or something, and you're like basically like okay, that pitcher did his job well today,
but it's not
and
just like that pitcher like that quarterback just did something that had never been done before. No quarterback
yeah,
had led a comeback like that, right? Where
right.
he
But that's
and
also the team accomplishment too. Like
it
right,
is
like
like that, but
I think
that's what,
that's where I think it's kind of like so let's say
but you
like a
need
team does something that like if if the pitcher like if let's say Pedro Martinez pitched game 4 of that
Mhm.
ALCS against the Yankees and then he went 6 innings 1 run whatever like did his job for game 4 and then they rolled him back out in game 7 and he did his job in game 7. I like it's some again it's hard to find a perfect analogy for this for because of the nature of the NFL and stuff like that but like I think I view it more as like the comeback is more of the team's thing, and Brady did his job within that comeback.
Well, okay, so it's a team thing because I mean,
Yeah.
it's 28-3. You need the defense to hold the Falcons to 0. The Falcons are the best offense in the NFL. So like of course it's a team thing, right? Like no matter what Brady and the receivers and the O-line does, if the defense doesn't also play pretty much perfect, you don't win. Um, and of course, the nature of football is it's such a team dependent game. Like you need everyone to play. So I don't talk about Brady. Like I don't want to take away from anyone else on the Patriots. But at the end of the day, he is leading that team, and no quarterback has ever put together a string of dominance after being down. Like the composure. How many great quarterbacks will you see in those moments? They're gonna start pressing or something, right? And you're gonna make a bad decision. Like Brady's ability to stay composed and go and just put together the perfect drive, put together a perfect drive, put together a perfect drive. Like as much as you want to say it might have not looked impressive, like if you break down each individual throw, there's a reason that nobody else can ever string together drives like that. And it's also part of like the team is really great, but you never see it. You cannot find another
Yeah.
performance or a half that's that like perfect pretty much. So that's why I think like you have to give him the credit.
Now, here's another question is,
Mm.
do we think or trust that the NFL put that much thought into it? Or did they just give it to the quarterback?
Probably, I mean, so this is probably all it took was he had statistically the greatest quarter in a Super Bowl ever. Like that's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
They had the biggest comeback ever. You give it to the quarterback. Like that realistically.
Yeah.
That's just the
And
way it's always
so
been.
that's I think that's maybe more of where my mind is like, well, let's give it to James White because if we're just like, he had
Right,
those two
right.
touchdowns, he has as much of a claim to it as anyone. And when I think because of the nature of the sport, when a singular player stands out like that, the MVP should go to them because you don't
Yeah,
often see
right.
that besides the quarterback.
Which is fair. Like, and that's the thing.
Um,
What am I saying? James White either tied or set the record for catches in a Super Bowl
yeah,
as a running back. Like he played insane. We don't win that game without him playing really well, right?
yeah,
But it's just the reality of the NFL. If a quarterback plays very well in a Super Bowl, they get the MVP. They're
yep,
100% of the time, right?
yeah.
Like
I
so,
was shocked that Matt Stafford didn't win um the Super Bowl MVP when the Rams won it.
yeah,
I was shocked that they get because
yeah,
that it had I remember sitting with friends and watching it and being like, this has let's just give it to the quarterback by default written
yeah.
all over it.
I honestly I think the fact that Cooper Cup had the season that he did.
It was like an accumulation sort of thing.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
he had a record breaking year and then a record breaking like his playoffs were so good.
yeah, that's fair.
I mean maybe not, but I question if it's just a guy that's been good has that game, you probably give it to the quarterback. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong, but that's kind of what I would
maybe.
think. So all right,
So that's
we
my
just
number
beat that
three.
horse
That's
for
your
a
number
long
two.
yeah.
Yeah, we went into a long one on
Might have
that.
to cut this one.
Well, hey, that's
Hey,
that's probably the most debate we've had on anything.
yeah, I agree. I agree. I enjoyed it, but we've gone through like 3 games.
I know. Thankfully, that one knocked out one for each of us,
Yeah.
because otherwise we would have had a long way to go here.
All right.
I
So
think
it's
it's
my
you
turn.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's my turn. No. Okay. Um, I'll go with my number 4. I have the 2012 Super Bowl Ravens versus 49ers.
that's the one I wanted to get. That's the one I had to bump something else off for.
Okay, so it's on your list.
It is
Where do you
on
have it?
on there now. Yeah, I almost forgot about it, but
Yeah,
when I think because I watched that one fairly early today,
yeah,
I was like, oh, this has to be on my list. And then I put together the ranked order fairly recently.
yeah,
That
yeah,
it
yeah. You
it
forgot.
I forgot that I was like, oh, that has to be there.
Yeah. So you have it 4 then as well?
I have it 5 because it
5.
slipped
Oh,
in. It
that's right. What am I
probably
saying?
I
What am I
probably
saying?
would have it 4 if I had remembered it though.
Yeah. So, um, just a rough breakdown. Insane Super Bowl, not least of which the power went out in the stadium, which
Yeah,
just
which
adds
was
a whole
awesome.
wild dynamic.
I remember the halftime show being pretty good too, for what that's worth.
Yeah, I don't really watch those, so I'll take your word for it.
That's why I put my
Yeah,
2 cents in there.
yeah. So final score is 34-31. It's a bit of a deceiving final score, but we'll get there. Another example of a crazy comeback, because almost comeback, I guess, but the Ravens were up 28-6 in this game, 21-6 at halftime. What I imagine is a reason you love this game is the longest kick return touchdown ever in a Super Bowl.
It's just
In
awesome.
108 yards, first play of the second half. I mean, yeah, insane play. Like
Yeah.
and those plays are just electric. The gut punch that must have been for the 49ers, right? Like you go into halftime, you're losing 21-6, but you got a field goal right before the half. Cut it down a little bit, and you're in halftime. It's like, look, we get one stop, we get the ball, we score, and then like we're fine, right? This game's like we just need come out hot, have a good drive, and literally the first play, you just have like a absolute collapse. 108-yard touchdown is crazy. nonetheless, they then score 17 straight, 28-23. It's a little back and forth. And then the reason that I have it so high, I think what sets it apart, I almost put it 3, is it's 34-29. Niners drive down all the way to the goal line and then get stopped 4 plays in a row, like as time expires too. So the reason it was 34-31, Ravens like got to stop and then tackled for a safety, or right.
Yeah.
So it's like really, it was a 5-point game, so they needed a touchdown. So then a situation where game's about to end, like it's going win or lose, right? There's no possibility for a tie. And 4 plays from the pretty much the goal line, like Wendy, that is a crazy stop. And I can't think of another Super Bowl. I could be wrong, but at least not in our lifetime and not in like recent memory before that. Was there a time where there was a 4 and out on the goal line? Like, it's just crazy.
They also had the Harbaugh Bowl, which is
Yep. Also
fun.
that.
That's a fun kind of thing to look back on, especially because one of them has basically like never come back from this
Yeah.
loss. It's yeah. I mean, Jacoby Jones in this game was electric. You have
It's
the
gotta be.
kickoff return, but also that I remember watching that the one that Flacco throws deep, he kind of falls and then gets up and like what a play. And I remember
Ridiculous.
watching that and just being floored by how awesome it like hits the spin move and then just beat like, oh, that was just an awesome play. I also think aesthetically this is a nice Super Bowl. You know, the purple and black is a nice look, and then you have the 49ers classic look.
Yeah.
And it was just a fun game. It was a fun
Yeah.
night all around. Halftime show was pretty good. You have the just I mean, I just remember going like the next day, all the I guess this is kind of sort of before memes even, which seems sort of weird, but like at least before they were a big thing. But I just remember all like, people saying like, oh, I heard that it blew out because Beyonce used all the power.
Right.
And it was funny to like joke about that. Yeah, just a good one. So that's my 5. Where'd you have that one? You said
I had it 4. And I mean, any Super Bowl that literally it comes down to the last play.
Yeah.
Electric. We're like, they're about to snap it for what is the final play of the game.
Right.
And someone is going to win on this play, right? Like that's
yeah,
an incredible way to end a Super Bowl. Factor in some of the crazy plays that happened throughout that game as well. Such a good one. So easily could be higher, but I have it 4. You have it 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we've done my
You got
3,
your
4, 5.
We got my 2, 4, 5.
2, 4, 5. Okay. I'm gonna go with the one I was probably most passionate about being on the list, even though it's my number 2. I have the hopefully I get the year right on this one. This is one I had originally like as the number or something.
Yeah.
2008. The Steelers Cardinals.
Wow. Look at us with these lists. Yeah, I have it on there.
You have that one? That one for me was the other one that I was like, this is on there because I just when I think of just like an awesome Super Bowl, for some reason that's the one that pops in my head. And you have the moments, you have the what's his name? James Harrison, I think.
Yeah.
The big interception to end like such a game changer too. The Cardinals are driving, they're so close to scoring going into halftime, and then he takes it all the way back. And I remember that moment just being like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then, you think that's the Cardinals out of the game, but then they end up making this big comeback later in the game. It's also always nice when you have like a star player in one of these games and they actually have a good, like Larry Fitz had a good game. So that's always kind of nice. And then obviously the San Antonio Holmes catch is one of the best in Super Bowl history, probably because of the moment and combined with how he made it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all those things you said are so true. I mean, I feel so bad for Larry Fitzgerald because if they win that game, he's like, that's a Super Bowl MVP. That's not a QB right there. That like he wins it. And he had arguably the best postseason ever for a receiver. I don't know him off the top, but like you go look at his numbers, that whole playoffs are just insane. But and like you just mentioned, like James Harrison's 9,900-yard touchdown has to at least be in the argument of the craziest play ever, right?
Right.
And like you said, it's 10-7. You're marching. You think like at absolute worst, Cardinals are thinking we go in halftime tied. It's fine. But we're right there on the goal line. We probably score a touchdown. We're about to take the lead. Then all of a sudden you're going in a locker room and you're down 10. It's crazy. Another game with a big comeback. They ended up being down 27 and then rattled off a run, end up 23-20.
Yeah.
Larry Fitzgerald like some big plays. Fitzgerald had like a 50-yard touchdown at one point, something like
which
that.
I think that was the one that took the lead too, which was a electric play because you just see him break away,
right?
And then you're like, oh my gosh, they're about to take the lead.
It's crazy. And then like you said, put together a 2-minute drive to go down. They score like 30 seconds left, roughly. And I would like in my opinion, that is the greatest throw and catch in an NFL game ever.
Really? Wow.
Yes. If you watch the difficulty of the throw, there's like two Cardinals receivers that
Three
was it
in
three.
the
Sorry.
area, yeah.
Yeah, and a couple like we're talking like this far away from tipping the ball,
Mm.
and then the Holmes reaching out and catching it, and you look at his feet, like
Yeah.
the ability to get
Yeah.
his toes down, and it's a game-winning play. So that's why this one was really close with the Ravens one for me. The reason I put it 3 was just because you end, even though there's 30 seconds left, but you end the game on one of the greatest plays
Yeah.
ever. Like the throw had to be perfect down to like amount, like literally millimeters, and the catch, his toes like had to be perfect down to millimeters, and he got hit too, right? Like he got hit afterwards. So I think just because that play is so crazy, I put it in there at 3.
Yeah. I will say, watching it back today, that play looks way better from like the broadcast camera. When they start showing the replays and stuff, the defenders look further away, like the way that some of the angles, they look like, oh, there's 3 guys there, but they're not right on him, sort of. But it's
Yeah,
because of like the way that they shot it. But I think if you were to look from like Ben's point of view, they're kind of like, they are in
right.
the way of him. They're just not like
They might not be
holding
close,
on
but
to him, right?
yeah, but that's the thing is like you don't necessarily have to be close to someone,
Yeah.
but if you're in between the quarterback and the receiver,
Right.
and the sidelines there, like there's virtually nowhere to put the ball. So
Yeah.
there's just one angle in particular, kind of like behind Holmes, and you're watching the ball come, and you just see hand almost tip it, and you see how close it is, and then the catch with the toes. It's crazy.
You got to think, for the Cardinals guys, that is a huge, like, that they probably lost so much sleep over that, because all 3 of them, like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Because like I said, they could have been so much closer to him. At least
right.
one, like one of, they're all like
Yeah,
right next to each other. It's like, how is
yep.
one of you guys not on him?
Yeah,
Like,
and you
what
know
are you
they're
all doing standing there?
yeah, and you know they're probably sitting there like I should have been able to get a hand on the ball. Like I should
Oh
if
yeah.
if I took a step earlier, lunged a little harder, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just heartbreaking, but insane play. So
Yeah.
unreal game.
Another
That's
thing I will say, I wish the Cardinals had better jerseys, because their helmet is so underrated.
yeah, I
That
agree.
helmet is so clean. The logo is
Yeah.
nice. And I was just
I
watching the camera like, wow, how did that? We didn't even mention that when we did like uniforms.
Yeah,
And then I'm watching, I'm like, yeah, the rest of the uniform is like not
it's fine.
fantastic.
Yeah, and I love those Steelers away jerseys too. So,
Good
but all right,
uniform matchup.
so we each have 2 through 5.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, our number one better be the same because I think
We'll see.
you could go around here. It's gonna make me nervous. So what do you have one?
What do you have one?
Nah. I just need you to tell me what you have one.
What is the route that would make you nervous?
I'm afraid you're gonna have one of the Giants wins in here.
No, that was the one that got bumped by the
Okay,
Ravens, which, maybe hold off on number one. Let me explain why it got bumped. So I'm talking about
which
like
ones
the
you have?
atmosphere. I had the 07 one in there. In terms of like a spectacle, right? So at its heart, the Super Bowl is a game, but it is a spectacle also, right? It's
Mhm.
this 2-week preparation, whatever, the biggest game in American sports.
Mhm.
Regardless of if you're a football fan or not, everyone knows when the Super Bowl is happening, whether
Mhm.
it's because you actually know or because people talk about it.
Mhm.
And you have an undefeated team going against the Giants. You have Boston versus New York, basically. Awesome Super Bowl logo in Arizona. Like, it's just the spectacle. To me, there was never a game with more spectacle than
Mhm.
that one, and it was a close game. There's no denying that. There was a big play, the David Tyree helmet catch. However,
Missed penalty. I agree.
yes, oh yeah, I was going to bring that up if I made my list. How on earth did you not call hold on that
I
side?
don't. It's
Anyway,
ridiculous.
regardless, also, how does like Rodney Harrison doing everything he can to get that ball away? How does another Patriots player, right? He's not down for a while. How does
Yeah.
another Patriots player not just walk over and go, "I'll take
Oh my
that, thank you
goodness.
very much,"
Yeah.
as he's holding the ball like this? So many things.
How does Asante Samuel drop the interception? Like
So many things.
I'm gonna get worked up for no reason.
So part of the reason it was going to be really low, regardless, was besides a couple of really big plays, it was sort of an underwhelming one to watch back, like just in terms of the game. Like, I don't know, it was a low scoring, sort of like we were talking last night about some of them, not on the same level as like the last Patriots Super Bowl, but it was a relatively low scoring game where there wasn't that many exciting plays until towards the end. So it was going to be low regardless.
Especially
Okay.
with like you have the best offense ever out there, and you expect like they beat the Giants in week 17, but it was like a shootout. It was like 38-35, something like that. And you're kind of like all this hype around this offense making it to a Super Bowl, and then they lay a dud.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what the Broncos did against the Seahawks, except the Patriots and Giants was actually close.
Right. And I think especially having that Steelers game be the next year
Mm.
it was sort of like that was the game that we thought we were going to like
Yeah.
that's the game that should have matched up with that
Right.
spectacle of that
Right.
Super Bowl.
Right.
Um, so moving on from the stalling, number one, I have 2014.
Okay. Yeah. And as I thought about it, I knew you had to because this is a no, like, there's no argument at
Yeah,
this point, at least.
it was so it's everything that, as for me at least, as like at that point I would say I was a casual Patriots fan. Um, it was everything that 2016 was in sense of like excitement because of how the game ended, but I think it was a better overall game.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you had additionally you had it felt like that it had that big game feel because the Seahawks had been good. The Patriots obviously had been good for a while. So it was kind of like, okay, here we go. It felt like one of those, like, these are the two teams that everyone wanted to see play each other. And
Number
here we
one
go.
offense, number
Let's
one
go. Let's
defense.
have it. And it was a good game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, phenomenal game. Seahawks going for back to back. Like, it was a amazing matchup. Like, on paper,
Mm-hmm.
just was set to be perfect. And interestingly, like, the number one offense versus the number one defense, the defense always wins pretty much. So the Patriots winning in that way, not that people were relying on that, but it was interesting. And like we talked about earlier, for me, it was like, especially at first, it was 2016, 2014, 1 and 2, like easy 1 and 2. Which one am I going to put first? Then as I thought about it, just a game that's back and forth throughout is just, it's a better game to watch.
Yeah.
And it's ironic that we say that because, like, technically, I think that was the first time a team came back from 10 points in a fourth quarter in a Super Bowl. So, like, in a way, it was like a comeback, but realistically, and there were so many like crazy plays too, right? Like, it's a really close first half. Patriots marching. Brady throws interceptions really bad early. But then we have like a deep touchdown to Gronk late in the first half to give us the lead. Like, great big play, and then the Seahawks go and they just like go right down the field in, like, I don't know, like 20 seconds or something, maybe even less. It was just ridiculous. Then they go up by 10. We have that little bit of a comeback, and then mixed with just the insane plays, right? Like, the
Mm-hmm.
catch that Curse makes is just
Yep.
ridiculous.
And it felt like, especially after Tyree and Manningham,
Yep,
at that
this is
moment, it was like,
right.
you got to be kidding me. We're
This is
doing
what,
this
this is what we
again.
do. And then, I mean, the interception, that's the best, like the biggest defensive play ever made in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
One of the craziest plays. And I love that it came from a guy that like nobody had heard of.
Yeah.
Like, I was the Patriots fan, like a huge Patriots fan at that point, right? And I should have known who he was. I'm sure there are a lot of Patriots fans that did, but that was one of those, like, he makes the interception. You're like, who even is this guy? Just incredible. I can't. This
It's
game,
also, and it also, that was again, like we were saying about the Ravens 49ers, it was again like either they score a touchdown or the Patriots are winning. And it seemed like they were going to score a
yeah,
touchdown. It seemed like that was basically
right.
inevitable, especially with Marshawn Lynch. So it
I
was
know.
so unexpected. Whereas
Yeah,
even though, like, you would think that like a walk-off overtime play would be more exciting, it almost wasn't in a sense because
it's so
you
unexpected.
expect them to score there. So
Yeah,
it's like once they get down there, you're kind of like, okay, I think we're gonna score here.
yeah.
Whereas the Malcolm Butler play was like, I think we're done, and then that happened. It was like,
It like
and there was
the
almost a fight after, which was exciting.
yes, yes. The just pure shock. Like, I can remember it vividly of just, and so this for me too, right? Like, this is the first time we witnessed the Patriots win a Super
True.
Bowl because we were too young for the other ones. So I'd only seen, like, the only Super Bowls I had in my brain or in my mind was like '06, we blow a 21-3 lead in the AFC Championship. '07, we're undefeated, lose to the Giants. 2008, Brady gets hurt. 2009, killed in the playoffs. 2010, upset by the Jets in the first round. Lose again in the Super Bowl to the Giants. Losing the AFC Championship. Losing the AFC Championship. It was just like, we're always good, but then we'd always lose.
Yep.
And so the Seahawks being right there, it was like, oh my, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. And then like that feeling of like, oh my gosh, they won, which isn't
Right.
why I have it here, but as a Patriots fan, like, that
Yeah.
is that moment. It's so tough because of how crazy the comeback was the next year, but that moment really might be like my favorite moment ever as a fan of a sporting event. Um,
Yeah.
it's just incredible.
Yeah. I think we said it on the one where we ranked like the best teams or whatever, but
Yeah,
it felt like, like everyone already hated Patriots fans because of the first dynasty and then
yeah,
just
yeah,
being good. So
yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, everyone hates us, but like we haven't really gotten to
Right,
experience
like,
why. Like
we haven't
they kind
really
of just hate us.
done.
They hate us for the stuff that happened like kind of before we can remember.
Yeah,
So then it was kind of like, okay, this is
yeah,
what they hate us for.
yeah. And I mean, like, huge game for Brady's legacy too, because it's like,
Mhm.
obviously at that point he had the 3 rings, he had the clutch drives, but realistically, it'd been a while since you won. And those early rings, like, the defense was
Right.
better than the offense, and so it's like, this was the first time where it's just wow, Brady just put together a great performance in the fourth quarter at least, um,
Mm.
and we get a win. So it just
And
what a game.
after his like surgery or whatever too.
Yeah.
Like for him personally, it was probably a big,
Oh yeah,
like,
huge.
to know that he could still get to
Yeah.
that level of after.
Right.
I mean, for a guy that's already not super athletic,
Yeah. And
and to
he
then
was
like
yeah,
have
and
such a horrible leg injury.
right. It's weird to think about now because it feels like such a long time ago, but like he wasn't young. You know what I mean? Like he was
Yeah,
in his 30s for the
right,
Super Bowl. Um,
right.
and especially now it seems normal that guys go till their late 30s and play well, but back then it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like the next year, Manning falls off a cliff at, upper 30s, which is like that's just what happens to the guys that play really long. Brett Favre played till his late 30s, 40s, was terrible at the end. So it people were calling for Brady to be benched that year at the very beginning of the year, or there were some people questioning it, right? So that was huge. You never know, right? Like you never know what happens, how each individual moment, like we're talking about with the Rams Patriots in the beginning, if we lose that Super Bowl, like maybe we don't go on this run. Maybe it's just another heartbreaking loss, and
Yeah,
they make changes. You know what I'm saying? So,
maybe Brady calls it quits right there.
dude, like
Like potentially, right?
right,
Like
like probably not because competitive, but
right.
realistically, if you're running a team, it's like it's 10 years now where we've been really good, but we just can't get over the hump.
Hmm.
Maybe we need to change something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They win it and then they go on a more dominant stretch over the next 6 years or whatever, or 5 years than they did that first few years. But yeah, good list.
yeah. So
We had
mine is
almost identical lists, really.
yeah. Apart from
We had
one,
four or the five were the same, and then the
the
placing's a
one
little
Patriots
different.
one, yeah.
So good.
I had number one, 2014, number two, 2008, number three, 2016, number four, 2001, number five, 2012. If I had remembered 2012, I probably
Swap 4 or 5.
objectively would have gone 14, 8, 16, 12, 07, just because I think of this, like the spectacle was there.
Mm.
Um, but I'm, like I said, when I realized that I did it, I'm happy to, like, I'm not bothered by not having that one on
Yeah.
there.
And we're not putting the Patriots lost on one of these lists. That's ridiculous.
And then
So I had
2011, I don't think ever really like came that close. Like I had it written down as a close game, but I didn't even watch it because I was like, it just didn't
yeah.
feel like
No.
that. I don't know.
One of those, and there's a lot of them. Like good game, but not like definitely
Yes.
not top five. I think another one for me like that is the which this is probably a better game, but the Saints Colts in '09, like
Yeah.
really good game, just not quite. Like just wasn't quite as close as these
Yeah.
games, so it's not there. But
Agree.
so I had 2014 one, 2016, 2008, 2012, 2003.
The other games that I watched were 2000, 2018. I watched just because we were talking about it.
Okay.
2004 again because we were talking about it. 2003 I watched, and then 2017 I took a look at.
Yeah,
But
another great one.
as good as that game was, again similar to like the Falcons one almost. Not actually, not really similar to the Falcons one that much, but it just kind of like, I don't know, it didn't quite feel the same, like back and forth in the same way that some of the other ones did. I don't know. It just
I will say, so I feel like it was back and forth.
it was back and forth in terms of like both
Yeah.
teams were in it,
But
but
I mean, and
it
they were alternating scores. The thing that's weird about that game that I don't know how to really explain, but I can remember watching it and it didn't feel quite as much like didn't feel like quite as much of a shootout as the numbers say it was and as it was. I don't know how to explain that,
uh,
but it was weird. And the biggest thing for me in that one is that like Brady fumbles. I don't remember how much time was left, but it was late in the game. But it was like Brady fumbles, Eagles score, Patriots get it back, score, Eagles score, I think something like that. There's still like a lot happened afterwards. Like there was a number of points where like the game still had a little ways to go, and at that point the Eagles were just out of reach, and the Patriots
uh,
couldn't get it to the point where they could really take a stab at it. Whereas these other 5 games were like legitimately right down to the wire. So that's why
yeah,
the Eagles Patriots, as great a game as it was, it's just not can't quite crack the top 5 in my opinion.
yeah, maybe that's kind of what it was. It just felt like that's kind of what I was thinking too. It felt like, both teams were in it for pretty much all game, but then towards the end, it almost just felt like uh at a certain point, it it was not over, but it was like, okay, I think
Pretty much over,
like,
yeah.
yeah, the Patriots are kind of losing steam here, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And the Eagles are kind of like, yeah, I think they're going to do it.
right. Um,
It just didn't have the same like electric feeling as some of the other ones did.
yeah, right. I couldn't agree more. But it's tough.
Yeah, I really didn't. I really wanted to try and like get other ones on here, but again, like the objective truth of looking at the list of games is that a lot of the closest ones have the Patriots in it, regardless of whether they won or lost. A lot of the other, like the Colts Saints one was a close game, but like it ended up not, the final score was not close.
Yeah.
I did watch Packers Steelers, which was a good game.
Good game. Yeah.
But again, one of those where it was like, oh, that was a good Super Bowl. It wasn't like, wow, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
But it was a good Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The only other one I wanted to give honorable mention to was Super Bowl 57, Patriots over Bucks. That was my Madden career Super Bowl, and that was a really good game.
That was a great game.
For those who didn't watch it.
Which
it was a really good one, which is everyone except me.
Yeah. Hey, I believe it.
But it was a great game. It was Patriots versus Tom Brady, so it was a big spectacle, and Patriots came out on top. So that was my first Super Bowl.
Mac Jones.
Wanted to give honorable mention into that one.
Like that. We need to see that from Mac Jones in real life.
Yeah.
But yeah. And also looking at it, my assessment of the end of that Patriots Eagles Super Bowl is just very wrong. I said there were like 3 scores after the fumble.
That's
not true.
You have multiple fumbles?
No, there's the one fumble.
There was one way at the end. I just don't remember if there was like.
But it's still like the fumble felt like it ended it with like a minute and a half, 2 minutes left. That's what it was. But yeah, because Patriots get the ball, we're losing, but there's a few minutes left, and it's like, especially with the way the game's going, I can still remember I'm watching it, and I had a friend I can like picture it vividly. It was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go win. It's like, we're gonna drive down, we're gonna score, we're gonna win, it's gonna happen. And then Brady fumbles, Eagles kick a field goal, and then I think so the field goal puts them up 8, and then we had a chance at a Hail Mary to set up a 2-point.
Yes, that's what it was. Because I did remember that I remembered watching it, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that ended. And then all of a sudden the next highlight was like the Eagles kicking a field goal. I was like, why
it was like, so
field goal
right. So it was like, it didn't technically end the game. There was still a shot.
It felt like,
but it like, I mean,
watching that, Hail Mary because like watching that game, it was like, yeah, this one's, once he fumbled, it was like, all right, this one's over.
Exactly. So that's why I say that. But
yeah,
still a really good game.
I am on episode 9 of the final season of The Mentalist. So,
which doesn't have full 20 episodes,
which only has 13 episodes. So, assuming you watch some episodes, our next one could be the much anticipated by me ranking of The Mentalist seasons. I have been rating them as we go along.
Yeah. I should have been taking notes, but I can still go off my memory.
Yeah.
I think I can get it done.
Okay.
I'm virtually done with season 6. And yeah.
That would be an interesting debate as well.
Yeah.
Just judging on our conversations.
Yeah. I was gonna say we have very differing views, but overall, very good show, right? Like very enjoyable watching.
I would say it's a good show. Yeah. I think there are definitely,
obviously we are
times
like astronomically different in our.
Yeah. We'll get into it more when we fully rank them. But yeah, I think, as far as
would you say,
have I enjoyed watching it? Yeah, there hasn't been any point where I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yeah. Patrick Jane, like really, really good character as well. Yes. Right. That I think, yeah. Okay.
I enjoy him a lot. Yeah.
We can break it down next time on the Rank and Debate podcast.
Yes, we will.